It started with a wrong turn. The Meridian Hotel was one of those aging places trying desperately to pretend it was still young. Fresh paint, fake plants in glossy pots, and framed abstract art that was clearly printed rather than painted. But beneath the surface, it still smelled old. Carpets just a little too worn, elevators just a little too slow, and a front desk clerk who smiled just a little too wide. I was there for a conference and had only booked the hotel because everything else nearby was complete. I checked in without issue. Room 415, 4th floor. The elevator chimed once and the doors creaked open. The hallway was exactly what you would expect. Beige walls, rows of identical dark wooden doors, faded numbers in brass. I counted as I walked. 409, 411, 413. The hallway curved slightly. That was when I saw it. Room 303. It should not have been there. I was on the 4th floor. I even turned around to double check. Behind me was 415. Ahead of me, the hallway just ended in a little nook with a window overlooking the street below. Yet there it was. Room 303. The door was slightly ajar. I should have left it alone. Part of me knew I should have left it alone. But another part, perhaps driven by curiosity or boredom, urged me to knock softly. The door swung open a little more. Inside was darkness, though I thought I glimpsed something pale inside. I leaned in and called out. No response. The hotel was not particularly busy. I had only seen one other person on my way up, an older man dragging a suitcase behind him. There was no reason someone would leave their door open like that. I reached for the handle. It was cold. For a moment I hesitated. Then, feeling ridiculous, I stepped inside. The air felt thicker, heavy, like a curtain of humidity clinging to my skin. I fumbled for a light switch, but found none. The door swung shut behind me with a quiet click. I stood still, heart hammering, straining to hear anything in the darkness. There was no sound. Gradually, my eyes adjusted. I could make out the shape of a room that looked identical to mine. Same cheap furniture, same ugly drapes, same generic framed art. But it was not identical. The window across the room was massive, much larger than the windows in my room. It stretched nearly floor to ceiling, overlooking the city below. Streetlights gleamed on wet pavement, and in the reflection of the glass, I saw something. At first, it looked like my own reflection, standing still in the center of the room. But the longer I stared, the more wrong it seemed. The reflection was slightly delayed. When I lifted my arm, it lifted a moment later. When I tilted my head, it copied me just a beat too slowly, sending a shiver down my spine. I took a step toward the window. The reflection smiled. I did not. A chill ran down my spine. I backed away toward the door, hand groping blindly for the handle. The reflection stood still, watching. Finally, my fingers found the knob, and I yanked the door open. Bright hallway lights spilled over me. I stumbled out, heart pounding. The hallway was empty. Behind me, the door clicked shut. I turned. There was no door, only a blank stretch of wall where 303 had been. I stared, trying to make sense of it. I ran my hand over the wall. Smooth. No seam, no frame. Nothing. A sudden thought struck me, and I rushed to the little nook at the end of the hall. The window there looked out over the street, and there, faintly visible against the glass, was my reflection, or rather, the reflection of myself still inside the room, standing still, watching. I stumbled back, heart racing. I hurried to the elevator, jabbing the button with trembling fingers. I barely slept that night, my mind plagued by the image of the smiling reflection. Every creak of the old hotel, every distant sound, seemed to echo the presence of room 303. In the morning, I went down to the front desk. The clerk smiled at me with that same too-wide grin. I asked casually if the hotel had room 303. She frowned, typing something into her computer. No, she said. No 3rd floor. The building had been renovated years ago, and they had skipped the 3rd floor entirely for superstitious reasons. No 303, no 313 either. I asked if anyone had reported strange things on the fourth floor. She shook her head and told me with professional brightness that the Meridian Hotel had never had any issues, not once. I decided to check out early. When I dragged my suitcase toward the elevator, I glanced down the hall. At the very end, I caught a glimpse of myself in the window's reflection. Only I was not moving. The figure in the glass just stood there, watching. Even after I turned away, I could feel its gaze, a palpable presence that lingered in the air. I left the hotel and did not look back. That should have been the end of it. But every so often, in windows or mirrors, I catch a glimpse. A figure that looks like me. A moment too slow, smiling, waiting. And sometimes, just for a second, I swear I see a hotel room door behind its brass numbers gleaming faintly, proclaiming it to be the door to room 303.